Hello and welcome to this week's look at action and stunts on film and television. And we are in a mission that's possible or not impossible, as the case may be. The new Mission Impossible movie, Dead Reckoning, has been out at the cinema for a little while now. If you haven't seen it, don't panic. There's no major spoilers here. But what we are going to do is we're looking at the backstory, because it's 27 years since the big screen version of Mission Impossible visited us for the first time back in 1996. Tom Cruise as the star and as producer for the very first time, which explains a great deal about his input in these pictures. At the end is a very interesting interview with Tom that was done during production of Dead Reckoning in Rome, I believe, where he explains why he does what he does, why he does the stunts. You know from watching this channel that I've had a sort of on-off relationship with Tom for quite some time. We did a video not too long back where we were looking at the way in which he was portrayed as doing all of his own stunts, when in point of fact he was doing a portion of them, and there were stunt doubles who weren't credited that we then went along and credited and pointed out, look, that's actually this guy and that's actually this guy here, and it's not all Tom. As the franchise, the Mission Impossible franchise, has gone on, Tom has taken up the mantle and done a huge amount of action himself, filming it in such a way that it just couldn't be anybody else. There's no room for a double. There's also, in certain cases, no room for take two. That's it. That's all it is. You get one take at it. And a lot of the action is, particularly in the later movies, bigger, better. They keep topping every one that they do. So let's explore this. We'll have a little look at the last 27 years. Check out the video at the end, which is the interview, and enjoy.
Easier because he's so enthusiastic about that work he does. He gives you 100% each time. Because the weight of the water, the framework around where he was going through was solid steel, so we had to be so precise in the way he went through that window. I think it was probably one of the most rehearsed jobs I ever done on a picture.
So Lee Sheward being ratcheted out of the window, Sarah Franzel at the bottom, and here's Greg to tell you how they did it.
Well, they done a shot of him running away. Walter just rushing out after him with all the false lobsters and everything in Prague. So you got the outlook of Prague in the background, but looking at the restaurant was at Palmer Studios.
Cleverly filmed. Here, there's Lee. Bang! There's the explosion. Out he goes. And Tom has to jump, leap and bounce out of the way. And Tom's stepping over him. Here's the shot. That's a lot of water. Absolutely amazing. It's one of my favourite scenes in the whole picture, that. Love it. This scene, of course, is another real clever scene, and Tom doing a huge amount.
To be honest with you, everything on that film, I think that was the hardest he worked on the film, was just doing that, because, coming down all that way upside down, hanging there through the whole shot upside down and doing the turnover, and he worked so hard keeping the balance.
Here's another very clever shot, and this is Greg telling how.
And it was all done by hand and weights. He just had two guys on there that, feeding him up and feeding him down, just stopping. We had all little marks on it, so when we dropped, it had it tied off to a mark, so it dropped and it was there each time.
Impressive, impressive stuff. Now, the thing is, how do you beat that in a second movie? Well, I don't know. I'm not entirely convinced that the John Woo approach was the way to go, but the action on it was remarkable. Lots of rock climbing, lots of extraordinary fights, lots of John Woo magic sprinkled all over it, and of course some very clever sequences indeed. And I think we should take a moment to have a look at this.
Tom actually did the climb himself. The rope is just a safety if he were to fall, which he didn't.
So that's always good to know that the safety cable's there. Again, the form of CGI being used in certain cases, not the same one that we're used to now, but there's some great stuff. The motorbike chase is a great example of some extraordinary moments of action. Good fight too, between Tom and Dougray. Hup, bang, lots of these, and then filmed in slow-mo in the action in the final edit. But it's very physical, and Tom's delivering, well, they both are, they're both delivering some serious shots here. Look, it's filmed in a number of different ways. Bosh. Coughed. That motorbike gag's terrific. There's some lovely moments in that. When he steps off the thing, which again he did for real. Camera rig involved, but stepping off the whole thing for real. For me, things really started to fall into place with Mission Impossible 3 and Vic Armstrong.
This stunt is Ethan Hunt entering the Vatican. Done a shot of him running up the wall. You know, it's quite an interesting shot. He starts vertical, runs up the wall horizontal, gets to the top.
We had to create the Vatican at Caserta, and what we did is we built this 40-some foot wall. It ended up actually serving two purposes. We shot one side of the wall for Rome. At the top of the wall, we actually shot in Rome. For the reverse, we shot in Caserta, looking toward Caserta as the Vatican. When he goes down, we went back to that first side of the wall, redressed to be the interior side.
So it's a very scary stunt. And when you roll off the edge, I promise you, it's a leap of faith. There's a lot of people think you can do it standing here, and you get to the top and you look. And when you roll off, you're putting your life totally in other people's hands.
He wasn't stopping fast enough. And Tom and I are like, you know, we got to speed it up. They said, well, we can't really speed it up because if you speed it up too much, it'll bounce. So we're filming the last one, and he drops, and it's significantly quicker.
That's sexy.
Oh, yeah! Are you kidding?
Yeah.
He hit the ground. Now, I couldn't tell how hard he hit, truly an inch away, you know, from a huge disaster. Tom, of course, just started laughing because he thought it was the greatest thing ever.
That's the greatest.
Let's shoot it. What do you think? Day 3 of our America part of the shoot. We finished Italy. This is one part of a 2-part location in Rykoff in southeast LA. Ethan Hunt and Lindsay jump out of that building on a cable and land on the truck.
Tom goes in there and inexplicably chooses to jump off, smash into, fight with, I mean, whatever the thing, he does all that stuff. The fact that he's also able to and oddly willing is just a gift to the, you know, filmmakers and the audience, because those scenes have a legitimacy that they would not have had we had a stuntman do it and pasted Tom's face on him or some other digital trick.
4 mortars in each window. They're loaded with balsa wood, gasoline, and a black powder lifter. We expect the gasoline to come out probably halfway across the alley. The balsa wood should be on fire and come 3/4 to all the way across the alley. We don't want to have anybody in that area. We want to have it cleared out. Everybody should be back in this area here.
So where did Carrie and I go again?
There's a little flourish, and that's stuff that JJ and I kind of found on the day, and we kind of find this cool moment. It looks like a little move, but it's really high. If you make a mistake, you're coming off that truck. You know, you could get rolled over, you could fall off and hurt something.
One time I kind of skidded out a little too far, and he grabbed me. You know, he's very, I don't know, he's just very safe doing all that stuff.
I wonder on that side, but you know, Tom's been amazing in working with the actors. He's so used to doing his stunt work, and Carrie's very new to it. So he was really helpful in terms of the timing of it, the rhythm of it, the confidence, you know, to do it. The only problem, though, I have to say about Tom, seriously, here's the biggest problem with Tom, honestly. I'm not kidding. No enthusiasm.
We're now in the interior of the building that is the extraction building, as we call it. It's where Ethan Hunt comes in and rescues the girl that has been captured. We've shot the exteriors, as you saw last week, and now we're doing the interiors. So this is downtown LA. This is literally an empty building next to the vegetable market in LA.
Well, we're almost halfway through the shoot. We're shooting in Calabasas, California, in this bridge sequence. We were discussing actually shooting it on the Chesapeake Bay Bridge in Virginia. I don't think it would have been possible to do the stunts on the actual bridge. There's just no margin for error. I realized once I had, had the sequence finished and written and pre-visualized, we could get away with a lot of cheats in terms of not seeing the water. So we looked around and found this location in Calabasas, and they let us build this strip of road, part of the superstructure of this bridge, and let us shoot there. And Scott Chambliss, our production designer, basically created the set for us to do the entire sequence.
The one stunt I think that impressed me as much as anything on the bridge was when he's running away from a rocket hit on one of the vehicles. The force of the explosion lifts Tom up and throws him into one of the parked vehicles that's been abandoned.
So I know that I have to run at a full speed, and I just have to get out of my mind that anything's going to happen, at which point they pull the trigger and I get slammed in the car.
And he really hit it, and he went in there horizontally, and as I said at the time, if any stuntman on the bridge there had that shot on their resume, they'd be very, very proud of it as a stunt. It was a hit.
Oh yeah, because you feel that concussion
will blow.
Oh my God. That is so good.
That's a great day's work, man.
It's cool because the way he's running, the look on his face before, during, and after that impact could only have been done by an actor as good as Tom. It was a really cool combination of a practical set, practical stunts, special effects, and visual effects, all working together. And I think that a lot of it will look like a lot more than just the stunts. It's the work that the pyrotechnic guys did, the work that ILM did on that sequence. But the dream was that it just sort of all feels like it's really happening, and you don't understand the machinations of sort of how it was done. But it really took the, synchronizing of a lot of departments and really talented people to sort of all pull off the one ultimate, illusion.
This will be Tom Cruise in the middle of the road in a laying down position. The truck will come towards him, jackknifes sideways. The truck passes right over him. He's between the axles. There's not a lot of room, but that's obviously what makes the danger angle, Yes, we built this delivery to make it.
It's good. I didn't have lunch, so...
Yeah.
To some degree, we all sort of saw our careers flash before our eyes.
All speeds and all powers. Action! For the first take, I was standing up the hill by one of the cameras, and it seemed forever the truck was just driving straight at him. It just looked awe-inspiring from where I was. Again, another grey hair.
I would much rather actually be Tom in the road than the guy driving the truck. Because can you imagine being the guy driving the truck over Tom Cruise? Because, yeah, it would be a real bummer if you ate it, in the middle of the road. But to be the guy driving that truck, that's like, it's worse. That was great. That was pretty good. You go for the day?
Ghost Protocol is next. Greg Smers steps up to the plate to take over from Brian Smers, of course, from previous Mission Impossible 2, and it's the Burj Khalifa, and it's that extraordinary shot of Tom outside the building on a cable, running up, running down. Now, this is the 126th floor. They did a huge amount of work here. They are all wired on. If you are near that window within a 10 or 15 foot radius, you have to be wired on. And the reason for that is because these shots here, when that window is removed, and when there's vacuums that swirl around the place, the wind turns and turns and can suck you clean out of the window. And you really don't want that, to have that on your death certificate. Well, that's not what you need. But all of these shots done practically. There's a little element of CGI here and there, taking away wires, taking away certain safety elements. But the majority of this is all done for real. helicopter shots outside, a number of cameras running all at the same time, catching some beautiful shots. And there's TC giving it the beans, running around the outside of the building, and then doing it again, and then being able to run vertically and run up and down. I mean, I'm bearing in mind that all of this was created on the basis of Tom having seen this, and also Brad Bird, the director, having seen it and said, wouldn't that be a great place to film a movie? I must keep it in mind. And then Tom had a similar exercise, got back together with them and said, hey, I know what we'll do, let's do this. And that's how this came apart. This is the guys taking the windows out, they take the real stuff out, they replace it with safety glass, and safety teams all nearby. Harnesses must be worn beyond that line. Once you cross that line, you have to wear a harness.
Notice we're all wearing vests and harnesses because this window is open. At the 130 to Scotty. Say hello, Scotty.
Hey, Scotty.
You're Scotty.
I'm Scotty.
Good, it's hard to find. But anyway, to cross here, you have to hook into one of these yo-yos, which if you'll notice, if I pull quickly on it, it stops. So you have to be hooked in a harness and on one of these to go out there and work. This is BS TV, by the way, behind the scenes. What did you think I meant?
Hey Chris, Peck, just know this has to be checked after. We have a little run in my stocking on my arm.
Okay, you want to switch it out?
No, it's good for this shot. Just for close-ups later.
The Burge was actually a lot of fun to work on because the building has unlimited pick points. Once we got permission to use them, we could pretty much go anywhere and make anything happen.
Right here, stepping out. Everyone I can step out. Stepping out, guys.
It wasn't really a question of safety and taking chances to us, which I think was one of the biggest problems in the beginning, is everybody looked at us, but we're going to be 2,000 feet in the air, and to us it's like being 2,000 feet, 5,000 feet, or 50 feet in the air, it's all the same. The end result is the same. If something happens, you're dead. There's no difference, you just have more time to think about it.
I was a professional climber for about 30 years. My job was to make Tom act and look like a real climber, which he's doing a really good job at.
Okay, Tom, we're ready to go.
Okay, let's do it. I'm ready.
Stand by. Okay, we're set.
He listens well and understands everything. That's very impressive, actually, for an actor to do this.
Camera's just pulling out.
Okay. I don't know if there's an actor out there that can even hold his lunch bucket as far as nerves.
Lunch bucket holding is a certain gift, I would have thought, and David Schultz knows a great deal about mountaineering and rock climbing and teaching people how to do this and that. And Tom, well, he does that. Look at him. He's playing. He's just playing. There's no acting involved here. This is him playing. Running around the building, loving life, trying to get the best shot they possibly can for the film. And it's tricky. It's tricky to look at it, and it's tricky to look at it and look at it from a separate perspective. If he wasn't the producer of the movie, would he be doing this? And yet, and there's the fan descender. That's the fan descender that was created originally, of course, by Vic Armstrong for the movie Green Ice. And that's now being used here. Dave Bickers, of course, was responsible with Vic for creating that, and it's still being used. Still being able to run out lengths of cable and control and control the speed in which he falls at, and it's still very impressive. Some things are good enough not to change. And yet all of these extraordinary shots, the first thing you notice is that it is Tom doing it. And it's a very impressive movie. And if you haven't seen this, I urge you to do so. It's absolutely one of the best of the series. Definitely. Rogue Nation. Wade Eastwood takes over.
Oh my God!
Can't hang a multi-million-dollar star on the outside of an airplane and fly around in the normal world. But Tom wanted to be on the outside of that plane.
I couldn't sleep the night before, and then came the day. I was like, okay, this is really gonna happen.
You ready?
Let's go. I kind of thought that was a one take, but he did it 8 times.
If something went wrong, I can't get into the airplane until we land.
Okay guys, please take your seats.
There's no little crash and a scratch. You're dead.
Ready, and action!
I'm feeling the force of the wind hit me. I'm actually scared of this. I feel fortunate because I get to work with the best bikes so that we could do very extreme things. We're not doing a lot of CGI. We don't have other stunt people do this.
And driving fast on these beautiful Atlas mountains on incredible motorbikes.
We've got totally legit 1,000 feet drops. It's just a perfect tool for what we need. So we can actually put serious speed and attitude into the bike.
We crashed them on purpose and rebuilt them and crashed them again. They are fighter jets on wheels.
It's got a few kind of rider aids that you can bring in to help you not to crash, and we're going to disable all that obviously for the crash, so it lets us have a bit of fun.
That's Rick English. That's Rick doing the high side, coming off the motorcycle and pitching himself into the road at high speed. The back end starts to slide and then it regains traction and chucks him over the top of the bike. It's a remarkable gag. Of course, it's everybody knows that it's the image that kind of sold the movie. Tom on the bike, and that image there.
Tom's driving was brilliant.
The car chase in Morocco is kind of mind-blowing.
Doing some free driving with Tom. He's a very good driver. I don't get frightened as such, as terrified.
Everything to help keep you from sliding a car, we have to turn that stuff off.
Drifting through those narrow streets, it's very easy to get out of control.
Casablanca is one big adventure.
Do you have your seatbelt on? You asking me that now? Hang on!
Well worth another check out, and as is Fallout. Check this out.
There is a moment on the behind-the-scenes footage where they recount that at one point there was a radio transmission that said, "We lost Tom." How dangerous was that fall, and how close did you get to actually losing him?
On the basket, on the net.
Yeah, on the net. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was one of the most nerve-wracking things. I mean, the challenge for me there was being able to fit all the rigging into the space of this little helicopter. So I had to drop Tom on a certain amount of line, obviously for safety. He's free-falling, but I have to catch him if he misses, which we did on a couple of them. And that all has to work with inside the tiny back of a helicopter, whereas most movies would be on a gimbal, on a green screen with a crane,
a big stage like
and
this.
fans, and we'd be sitting here having a coffee and be like, all right, ready for Tom, and he'd clip on and he'd take 4 steps up a ladder and that's it. But we were 1,000 foot up, freezing cold, flying down the Glenorchy Basin in the Southern Alps of New Zealand, the mountains, and Tom's looking up at me. I'm hanging out the helicopter because I'm doing all the cues and everything, and he's reaching as if he's trying to go up when he slips, and I'm looking directly into his eyes, and then he lets go and he falls down the line and hits the net and grabs on.
Okay.
And even though we've rigged it and rehearsed it and it's all done, it's even talking about it.
I know.
Yeah, I mean...
the level of concentration that he goes through in that kind of sequence, because he's acting, but at the same time he's got to catch the bag when he gets down there. He's got to concentrate all these things, and the temperature of his hands.
Yeah, he's absolutely freezing. And on the one take they're talking about, because he's trying to not make it look easy. So he's not hitting the bag and rolling off, he's hitting it and rolling and trying to grab late. And then he missed on one, so he goes flying, dangling under the basket. And we were flying near a base camp of ours, and there was a whole bunch of grips and guys preparing for another shot, and Rebecca Ferguson was walking, I think with Simon Pegg, to Crofty to get a coffee. And someone screamed that Tom had dropped. So, the Rebecca Ferguson and Simon Pegg and these grips had seen this body fall down this line, hit the load and roll off, and they didn't see where he went. They didn't see him dangling around because he's such a small speck, and in the light that looked like Tom Cruise had just disappeared into the abyss, and that was movie over. And you know, I'm very safe on my rigging, and I trust my team. You know, I've got the greatest team in the world, in my opinion, and we were all safe. But still, it's exhilarating for him to have that level of commitment to you know, we've rehearsed it, Tom, you're going to let go at this point, you're going to drop, and you're going to trust. And for him to physically do it and drop 1,200 foot up and drop 40 foot and hit off the bag hard and wind yourself, because he did not want it soft or just decelerated, he wanted it to be real.
Right.
And then be dangling around in space. I mean, it was exhilarating.
So he does a lot of motorbike riding in this as well. He's a big motorcycle fan, and here he is riding against traffic in the Champs-Élysées, the Arc de Triomphe. But bear in mind, when you look at the final footage, there's a great deal of CG traffic coming towards him. So yes, he's riding against traffic, but in the final edit, he's riding against hundreds and hundreds of cars. You can afford to take those chances now and adapt slightly. But no, you know, he handles a bike like a pro. He's been riding motorcycles for years. Floor wetted, a little bit of oil, so that when he does kick the gas, throw the bike round, vroom, round it goes, and off he goes. Done on purpose. And again, from a slightly different angle, hits his mark, sees where he's going, kicks the bike round, and off he goes. You've got to keep doing it time and time and time again to get it right. Here he is taking off on his bike through traffic. Everybody in the car is a stunt professional. They're all ND drivers. They're all in the car for a reason. He's changing direction. He knows he has to go right, and then he has to go left. Down into the underpass. Out the other side, up the other side. Where he is met by his adoring fans. Look, there they are. And he waves. Hello, it's me. And another great angle here as he jumps the curb, and then down. And then there's some driving gags. And again, Tom's in the car. The cameras are set up in such a way that it's Tom in the car, it's the actors in the car. Sliding the car. Nice BMW. Hitting his marks, you know. And then being able to give it, bang, hit the, slide it, there we go. And again, he's got to be right on top of that camera because there's presumably dialogue and reaction shots taking place. And as we come slightly further down the line, we will see that there is a motorbike involved in this as well, which Vanessa Ferguson is on. And she's barreled up into the eye. And in point of fact, it's stunt woman Lucy Cork who is on the receiving end of this. That's a breakaway bike that she's straddling. The bike comes in, she's wired, and up it goes. There we go. And the wire will assist her movement off the vehicle. But it's still very impressive. Rebecca Ferguson, not Vanessa Ferguson. Who's Vanessa Ferguson? I don't know. Rebecca Ferguson, that's who she's doubling on the bike there. And Lucy coming down to earth with a bang. Impressive stuff. More motorcycle stuff here. Close camera work. Kieran Clark will be on the camera bike. And then, of course, it's Tom and the helicopter. He's got a safety cable on, but he has to free climb that rope. That's not being hauled in. He has to free climb that rope. And here's another angle of it. Hand over hand up the rope. That's not easy to do. I was never able to do that when I was at school. They always wanted you to do that. Hand over hand up to the rope, up to the top, and then come all the way down again. He has to get to a point here where he gets up to the top. He's delivering dialogue. And then he must try and kick his leg up onto the strut before dropping like that. Bang! And he has to do that 4 or 5 times. And because of the way in which the wind is blowing and the way that the bag is weighted, he's not hitting the bag in the same place every time. So you get a different type of response. He puts his leg up again and now goes bang, hits the edge of the bag and rolls off the side. And then he's doing skydiving. And this is a real halo jump. Supposed to be over the skies of Paris. In fact, filmed over the desert. Saudi Arabian desert. But this is a day shoot. And of course it's day for night filming, because in the final edit it is the thunderstorm, the lightning, all of those reaction shots. But that's Tom and the camera guy with him, and they are falling together, and they've rehearsed this with a dirt dive, which is what all skydivers do. If they're working out routines, they work it out on the ground first, and then they go up and they recreate those jumps. Normally they recreate them in segments. This is an actual jump from start to finish. He may have made hundreds of jumps over the years, but this is one that he's having to film the whole thing on the way down. And it's impressive. The problem is the CGI overpowers the whole thing and you lose him. Well, I think you lose him. You lose him completely, which is a great shame. In some of those moments, there's the fight that has to be worked out. 2 of them fighting over top billing, I imagine. It's probably what they're fighting over at the moment. But it's excellent to watch. So I urge you to go and see, or to, if you haven't got it already, Fallout. Go and watch it. It's absolutely spectacular. And what we're going to do now is we're going to take a look at a wonderful interview with Tom, a very revealing interview with Tom as to why he does the stunts he does, and this is how it goes.
Ever since I saw the featurette of you on the motorcycle, I've been wanting to ask you this question.
Yes.
There's a moment before you go on the first run and you look off to the end of the ramp and you go, do you remember this moment?
Yes.
What was that?
Okay, there's 2 things.
Okay.
One, it was, okay, I'm going to do this. I did feel that emotion. It's like,
Really?
okay, let's go. Because I didn't know what was going to happen. It was the first day of filming. Look, I've spent years preparing for this. It's not just the years prepping and figuring it out, but I've been riding motorcycles since I was a little kid, been parachuting, training, constantly developing for years, developing knowledge, developing technology on how to shoot these things, and really how to tell a story. It's not just capturing an image, but it's how do we tell a story. So when I was on the ramp, I was thinking, we're gonna see how this goes. You know, BQ and I talked about it. I know the camera. As that helicopter's going across, we had to be in sync because he could have blown me off that ramp. So his timing, my speed had to be perfect to adjust the camera. So everything, the rhythms of everything we had to do and everything we trained, now's the moment where I'm going off the cliff. And I'm thinking of performance. And it was a nod, it also was a cue to tell everyone I'm about to go.
Okay.
So it was keying off everyone. I called my own action. So they said action, but no one went. I had to find something where I didn't take my hands off the bike, like I couldn't give a hand signal. And I also wanted to be part of performance where you just see my head went down. I went like that. That told the helicopter I'm going. It told the drones I'm going. And so all of that timing came off. And once I did that, I had to release the bike.
Yeah.
So I go like that, and that's the moment I must release the bike. Otherwise, the sync is going to be off. And it would also affect just the dynamics of doing something like that, the downdraft from the helicopter, where the position of the drone is going to be, all the camera operators, so that when I'm going off and, yeah.
You finally flew without a plane.
I know, it was amazing.
What you did. Speaking of McHugh, he told a little story that after the first
he could tell
screening,
a good story.
He tells a great story. After the first screening of every Mission Impossible film, you whisper in his ear and you say,
"We can do better." Not just every Mission Impossible movie.
It's just Mission Impossible?
No, not
it's
every.
everything.
Every movie we make, I look at it and I'm watching and say we can do better.
Even Top Gun, even Maverick.
Always.
Do you think you can make a better Maverick?
Oh, I think I can.
Are you going to? That's the question. So how do you, when you say after Fallout, how did you improve on it? Because I do really believe, I just watched the entire series in succession, I do really believe that you have improved on every single one, but how do you do that as a filmmaker and as an actor? And then how are you going to do that for the second part of this one?
You know, we're always looking at how, it's a story, is it immersive? Yeah. Since I was a kid, I've studied movies, I've studied studios, distribution, traveled the world and watched films with audiences all over the world, their movies and their culture and my films to see how they translate. And I'm always going, how can I hone a story to make it as immersive as possible? And with each one, I'm constantly learning. The amazing thing about this art form, the amazing thing about this life is that you're constantly learning. It's both fantastic and terrible. You know what I mean? You're like, oh my gosh, you know, and we're constantly pushing it to that next level, not just with stunts, but story. How can we, with the resources that we have, give a better experience or an immersive experience for an audience? So those things, and it's just like I'm not going to try to compete, but all the things that I've learned in terms of character development, story structure, how to, filming. I'm always challenging myself on a daily basis and my crew, and McHugh and I back and forth going, really thinking in terms of just what's connecting me to the story or not, what's connecting me to the environment or not. So here we are shooting in Rome and also looking at the city and not trying to put something in that is forcing the geography. We're going, what's the geography telling us? What story can we tell? And you have an actress like Haley Atwell, someone who we've admired for many years, and thought when we were thinking of this movie, when we meet her, we're going, what story can we tell with Ethan? And we knew, we wanted to go back more into the history and pull up Henry Czerny and really, you just felt the movie wanted to do it. And I felt that the franchise had earned it. So those are the things that I'm constantly looking. Like for me, it's, and I don't know how many films I've produced. I don't know how many films I've overseen, but that is how I feel about it. I want to not just say I'm going to try to outdo myself, but going, what is this story? And how can I take this kind of story and from my knowledge of audiences, global audiences, how can I tell the story in the same manner, but engage a broader audience as best I can?
You've been running a movie since 1981. Two of my favorite runs are in this one, and you do a lot of running in this one. It was actually
McHugh just has me running. Every time he's like, I can, and they're getting longer.
They are, but
They're
that's
getting
my
longer.
question. We all see you run. We all enjoy you running. Your fans
Thank
love
you
you
very
running.
much.
But how do you actually train for it? Because you're training for, do you have personal bests that you up? You're grinning now because it's like...
It's a very good question because it's interesting because I have to go through it and look, just as an actor and in my life, I've always trained just to make movies because the endurance and I train in many things, singing, dancing, motorcycles, cars, and also in my personal life, I like skydiving and speed flying and all these things. And I like to then go learn these things and then apply it to the movies. But it is a real trick, and I have gone through to figure out how do I train, how do I maintain, how do you hit peak right at the moment? Because also when I'm doing a sprinting scene, I don't just run once. I have to run, sometimes I've done 50 sprints in one day, so I have to think about what the recovery time is, what scenes I'm shooting before and after, and I've gotten better at really structuring things within the film and sitting down and going, because I have to prepare for the jump off the motorcycle. So there's certain things and you're using your body in a different way, or if I'm doing gymnastics or a fighting scene, you don't want to do a fight right there when I'm going to sprint. And how do I prepare and how do I recover? And also the hours that I work 7 days a week, and I'm producing, so it's just and everything else that we were dealing with during this time period. It was, but I enjoy I have to say, I enjoy the pressure. I do enjoy the challenge of it. I realize I woke up, I enjoy this. I like putting myself through in these kinds of situations.
Well, last question. I heard you just say, you never think it's big enough.
Yes.
The next couple of stunts, McHugh gave me a little tease. He says the last shot in this one sets up one of the stunts in the next one, which we can assume what that is. But we've also seen shots of you out on the plane, walking out on the plane, did you go bigger in this one than in...
I can't tell you. I can tell you we went bigger. I shouldn't tell you that. I could tell you, but then I'd have to kill you.
You could
That's
tell
the
me,
line
you
from
could just
Top
hurt
Gun.
me a little bit.
That's a line from Top Gun.
But in this one then,
Yeah.
which one of the 3 sequences do you think was the biggest in terms of as a producer and actor?
You know what? Each one has been very challenging. Each one was really fun because, look, we built the train. The train is real. We had to build the train to put it down a track, to send it off the track. All of this stuff. And also what I enjoy is, you know, the action that I do with Palm and with Haley, the driving through here, the streets on the cobblestone, one-handed, because like you're gonna be handcuffed. I'm like, oh my gosh, okay. So I'm practicing drifting, and the Fiat had a very, you know, small wheelbase, so it would catch on the cobblestones, and Haley and I are in the car together as we're doing it. Each one had a different kind of adventure about it, and a different challenge. Always with motorcycles, it's challenging because you're looking at it, but I don't have pads, so I rehearse all the jumps and everything with the pads and high speed. I'm always going very, very high speed. So that stuff's always, even though they're little small jumps, you know, the things that I'm doing ahead of time, they're always a little tricky, little, you know, rocks and different things like that. So it's never boring. Every morning there was a bit of adventure, and also the base jumping that we did. You can see in the EPK. You can see me jumping out of the helicopter. I was testing the wind inside the bowl. And it wasn't just once I get off the ramp, it's still once I open, the challenge is I have to open in a manner that if I'm destabilized in any way, the chute will open in different ways. And they packed it beautifully for me. And it was very important that I always had the same team with me. But and you could see I opened and the parachute opened in a way that threw me into the side of the mountain. And you can see you have to really be ready that when it opens, that if I'm this, and I was about this close to the side of the mountain, that you pull you get the parachute very quickly away from not dragging any piece of the parachute on the rock. So every day there was a challenge, which I liked, plus performance, plus, and it's not just about me, it's about our whole cast. And really, that's why we're happy to put the bike jump out, because they thought they saw it and they've never seen it. You won't see it until you see the movie. And there's another shot we're so low as I'm getting to the ground. It's right over me as I'm going very low to the ground. You can see that shot there. To get that shot was very interesting. And we know that we're happy to send that out because we know we have the whole train. We know you have the whole, horses in the beginning. All the horseback riding, all of that stuff in the desert, in a sandstorm.
My favorite moments with you, as much as we love the big moments, the Ethan quiet moments, you need that balance in the film.
Yeah,
and I love that McHugh will linger on a shot just long enough. You'll tell the team, I got it. And there'll be that little bit of doubt. So how much joy do you still get into those quiet moments, as much as you love the big moments?
I love all of the moments. I have to say all of those moments. And also when I see the other actors, and we're constantly working with them to, what I love in movies, I want vivid characters. It's not about me. It's about the story. And it's about how do we tell this story to engage an audience into an emotional story and a character journey. And there's this other stuff that we have. It's the amount of time that we spend finding the story, finding those moments with the characters, and not just for myself, but the other actors, and developing that stuff. That's what engages me. And then I want to thrill the audience also with these other things, because if you don't have that, it doesn't matter how big it is if I'm not invested in the story and invested with the characters, and that is primary for us.
And that's what keeps the franchise going. It's not just the stunts.
Yeah, and just movies, and why I want to see movies. I want to care about the people. I want to be interested in the world. I want to be interested in those people. That is movies. I'm using all of the skills and the things that I love in cinema, and all of the dramatic and comedic and all those films and the character development that we have. And we're looking, and I'm developing that with all the actors, and then all we're doing is putting a big landscape on top of that.
Right.
That's all. It's, from any other kind of movie that I've done, how do you have that emotion while you're juggling? How do you have that? The thing with this movie when you're looking at the Fiat and you're looking at Haley and I, we're playing those scenes in a 2-shot. Now, we don't have a bunch of takes that we can do. Those characters have to be connected, and you have to find those moments like that. And that kind of skill to be able to play that kind of moment and comedy that normally I get to have in a Jerry Maguire or a Rain Man, or a Cocktail, where you have that, you're on the ground, you're doing that. We're doing it at high speed and having it feel organic, because it is organic, it's happening now. But you have to have actors that, first we have to get them used to that kind of speed and that kind of pace and that kind of action. Now, the scene on the train, it's like, you trust me? No. Those kind of character moments that are real, that invest me in these people. And that's the thing, always with Ethan, I was like, look, the key with this character, and people are like, oh, no, he does this. It's like, he doesn't want to have to do that. He has to do it. And when he's about to go off that cliff, and what he's thinking about, what's interesting and what I want in it is that emotional investment as to why he's doing it. We understand. It's not just ta-da. We're not going ta-da. It's story that's getting us there. And anyone that understands that level of performance, that level of storytelling, understands, like, I could have that. That's the same kind of emotional investment that you have in a movie that we're shooting in a room. That's what I'm always looking for. I'm looking for audience engagement, character audience engagement with that. And telling our story, we're not altering our story or what I want to do, but there's many different ways where I can push an audience away, or I can pull them into my story, and I can pull them into a character. And those are the things that, I've played supporting roles and I've played the lead roles. So I know structurally every aspect of how to draw an audience in, and when do I want to draw them in, and when do I want to push them away, with those different kinds of characters. And that's constantly the evaluation as we're going through it. So it's not just, as an actor, I'm not going, it is character development, and it's the whole story. It's every actor in there. When we're casting the actors, we're looking at them going, okay, how do I celebrate their talent? Which is, in old Hollywood, they would look people and and they built performances for them. That's what I do. If you look at my movies all the way back when I was a young actor, you look at Risky Business, you look at A Few Good Men, you look at Rain Man, you look at these movies, my taste and my development is looking at actors and celebrating them. And that it's us together, and where do I put that camera? How do we write these lines? How do we develop it in a manner that is immersive for an audience? Because then you're seeing all these great characters, and those are the kind of movies I love, and those are the kind of movies that I try to and aspire to make.
So you're like the old lady that gave you the quarter. You're giving the quarter back.
That's it.
You know that story.
yes. That's it. That's exactly it.
That is genuinely. I've seen the movie twice. I believe it's the first time that I've seen a Mission Impossible twice at the cinema. And it's absolutely stunning. So if you haven't seen it, please do. I urge you to go and do that. If there's one movie that you really should see at the cinema this year, it's definitely that. On the subject of movies that you should see at the cinema, next week we are going to be looking at Indiana Jones and The Last Crusade. It is the final section of our trilogy. You will remember from previous conversations that we've had that I wasn't overly keen on the Crystal Skull picture, and this one, The Dial of Destiny, which is the new picture, hugely entertaining, wonderful stuff from start to finish, still doesn't need to be made, with the greatest respect to those people who are in the movie, financing the movie. I know a lot of the stunt people who worked on the picture are, they're really excited at the fact that they've been in an Indiana Jones movie. And that's really what it is. It's one of those celebrations of certain films. You remember when the Star Wars movie came out, the news, I'm trying to decide which one it was, but there'd been the hiatus after the movies that came in the 90s, and then there was another one came out in the 2020s. Everybody who was anybody wanted to be in the movie. Daniel Craig, remember, was in the picture. as a stormtrooper because he wanted to be in the movie. It's a Star Wars movie, you know, people get really excited. Bond movies are the same things. The amount of coordinators and stunt performers who get phone calls all the time going, can I just do a day on it? Let me just be on it for a day. That's all I want. You know, I just want to know that I can add that to my credits. It would be such a big thing to be involved in that. And similarly with the Indiana Jones pictures. We've done Raiders. Raiders, for many people, is the business. It's the best. Then we did Temple of Doom. Not best received, but I think it's a wonderful picture. Last Crusade probably should have come after Raiders of the Lost Ark to make everything flow from a timeline point of view. I think it's wonderful. It has Sean Connery in it, of course, playing Indy's father. And there's a great deal of work, particularly when you remember that Vic Armstrong, the stunt coordinator, came out of probable retirement to get himself ready and double Harrison on this picture. So that's all next week. Wednesday for the podcast, Friday for the YouTube channel. Check out the podcast. Check out the Pod Dojo network. They are responsible, as always, for the podcast. Go and have a look at some of the stuff that they've done. They've got some terrific stuff out there at the present time. And we'll catch you all again on the flip side. Until next time, it's bye for now.